It is Hump Day, July 9th, 2025. After a historical night on the Diamond, PGA Tour across the pond, an incredible match going on right now. Wimbledon. Yeah, Mac, I said Wimbledon, damn it. A lot of fun stuff going on in the sports world. A rare appearance from TJ on this Hump Day. And bear with me, folks. We're having microphone issues, at least on my end today. So if it sounds like I'm underwater in a tunnel, I feel like I'm underwater in a tunnel. And, Amazon Prime my ass. They couldn't get me a new microphone cord here in 15 minutes before we started the show. It's absolute horse bleep, if you ask me. How are you guys? Mac, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. Yeah, fun night on the Diamond. A lot of things to get to and talk about. We got a couple of games that have already started, and got some golf tomorrow. That'll be fun. Down in Scotland, where, who knows what's going to happen. If the weather's bad, it could be a different ball game.
Absolutely, and we're going to get to that a little bit later in the show. TJ, what's up, my brother?
It may have been a fun night on the Diamond for you two knuckleheads, but well, let's just say that I went to sleep early.
Yeah, well, the Angels were asleep the entire time. I mean, if you want to be fair.
But I think on Amazon Prime Week, it's 30 minutes or it's free. So you might want to, hit up Jeff B and ask him what's up. He might still be on his high from his $900 billion wedding that he might shoot that out to you.
RJ's starting early today. Blue Jays in action. Have they actually started that game yet, Mac? At Rate Field in Chicago?
Rate Field?
Yeah, bottom of the first. Hey, Blue Jays got a couple of hits in the first. Couldn't get a run across.
We're playing. So I gotta get this across. My mom would have been 71 today, and so happy birthday, Mom. I wrote a blog last year and it came up in my memories on Facebook today. And I wanted to pass this part along because we're going to talk a lot of baseball on Tuesday next week with the All-Star game and everything. Tomorrow, we're going to make our picks for the home run derby and all that stuff. But, my mom wasn't a huge sports fan, but I laughed at this point because one of the things I wrote about in there is my mom, Italian, like, very strongly Italian, and obviously I'm a button pusher. The best baseball player I ever got a chance to physically watch, at least my favorite baseball player I ever got a chance to physically watch, was Will the Thrill Clark, growing up in the Bay Area. Sweet swing, and I bust Max chops a lot about being a lefty and everything, defective equipment and all that, but a left-hander's baseball swing, especially the good ones like Griff and Will Clark, man, they are as pure as it comes. I love Will the Thrill. The dude is still hilarious, a guy I'd love to have a beer with. But my mom, with a wooden spoon, had a sweeter swing than Will Clark did. So happy birthday out there to Mom. I wanted to pass that along. I'm going to go watch some nostalgia of Will Clark swinging. And then every time I see him swing, I'm going to flinch like this, just natural habit because of the wooden spoon and everything. But let's get to the Diamond, guys, because, again, there was a lot of stuff that happened last night. We saw some history by the Bay Area teams that we'll get to, but let's go around the horn here before we get to a couple of interesting things, like maybe should the Bucks trade the Jolly Roger. We'll get to that in a little bit. The Mets and the Orioles took 10 innings last night, but the Mets, they get a win 7-6. Edwin Diaz with his fourth win of the season. Juan Soto with a game-winning RBI in the 10th. Oh, by the way, all those concerns about Juan Soto, I think, are null and void at this point. Again, we remind you that when these guys sign these new contracts, especially when they're still in the younger part of their career, sometimes they struggle. But great baseball players are great baseball players. Mauricio Lindor and Big Beat Pete, all home runs last night for the Mets. They'll look to keep it rolling tonight, but Juan Soto gets hot. Pete Alonso gets back to where he was at the beginning of the year, Mac. And I don't think the thought of Pete Alonso being the MVP is that far-fetched. Now, obviously, we know who the blue unicorn is in the situation, but a Mets team, the pitching is the issue, and we've talked about that a lot, Mac.
Yeah, this was an interesting game last night. I mean, it was a 1-0 game through the fifth inning, and then all of a sudden, everything kind of went astray. The pitching went astray. Both these teams put up some runs. It was a fun end of the game. it was a lot of fun to watch. Lindor that home run, Alonso with the home run. Both 2-run shots in the 8th inning. Yeah, I mean the Mets, they're going to need some starting pitching to get through. They've had some injuries there, but I mean this is still, they started off really strong. They kind of went through. I mean, teams are going to go through slumps. We have to remember, we say it all the time, and we haven't said it in a while. Baseball's the marathon; it's not the sprint. And you're going to have a couple of 3 and 7 10-game spans. It's going to happen in baseball. It's just the way that it goes. And even with all that, they're still only a game or so behind Philadelphia. So, the Mets are in a good spot. But it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I'm really starting to get excited about the trade deadline. A couple of weeks ago, I wasn't so excited about it. I am stoked about the trade deadline right now.
Going back to Pete Alonso for MVP, I don't think it's far-fetched at all. I think about how we sometimes the media will turn on you quickly in sports, and if the Dodgers are starting to just kind of slip a little bit, and they don't see Ohtani getting the innings pitched that we're expecting from him right now, you could see the writers going with a little Ohtani fatigue and Dodger fatigue and heading into a different direction for the Mets. We see it in the NHL with Connor McDavid, who puts up dominating seasons, and then they give the MVP to Nathan McKinnon when Connor McDavid is clearly the best player in the galaxy. So I could see. I don't think Alonso winning this MVP is really as much of a stretch as people might think.
No, not at all. And and when we talk about it, especially from a betting side, all the time with recency bias. And again, when I saw the numbers on Tarek Skubal to win American League MVP the other day, and I was like, you know what? I could foresee a situation, and Judge is getting hot again, and we'll talk about the Yanks here in a second. But the Mets were down 6-2. They now improve. I laughed when I read this. They improved their record to 5-34 when trailing after 7 innings. Detroit, get hot, stay hot. The Tigers 4-2 over Tampa Bay. They've won 5 straight. They're outscoring their opponents 19-6 in that stretch. Colt Keith with a homer and 3 RBIs last night. Canely gets the win. Flaherty pitched really well. Will Vest with his 19th save. Ryan Pepio. That's I'm going to get a comment here from one of my friends because that's a long-running joke from his Dodger time. But he had no hits until Torque took him deep for his 21st home run in the 3rd inning. Gleyber Torres, Mac, another guy we talked about yesterday. He's got a 21-game on-base streak. Tampa Bay's lost 8 of 11, ironically, since the article came out about where they were going to play their playoff games in a situation. They've hit a little bit of a skid here. And the Tigers, I mean, they're going to put a lot of teams on the skids.
This yesterday, I know you were a little off on the Tigers. So I came with a little ammunition today. The Tigers, Major League, these are Major League, where they are. As far as runs, they're 6th, hits, they're 9th, home runs 6th, RBI 6th, average 10th. What does that mean? That's consistency. That's consistency up and down that lineup. And that's what they have. What do they need? They need a center fielder. It'll be interesting to see what they can do. They could use another starting pitcher, but they could use a center fielder as well. But this is the thing. This team is a consistent offense, and it's not the same guy every night. It's Riley Green one night. It's Colt Keith. It's Torkelson. It's Bias. I mean, they do it up and down the lineup, and that's what I like about this Detroit team. It's the consistency. They're not relying on an Ohtani. They're not relying on a Judge. They're relying on a 9-person lineup. And some guys that we don't even really talk about all that much. McKinstry is another one. I mean, I love this lineup. I love this team. They're in it for the long haul.
Oh, 100%, Mac. They're in for the long haul. They, like you just said, they're top 10 in pretty much every offensive category. This team is very consistent. Maybe a landing spot for someone like Taylor Ward, who's been long rumored to be on his way out.
Yeah, and that's the thing every year is this the year for Taylor Ward? And it's definitely something to watch because we know the Tigers are going to do what they can to improve that team. And we dropped the stat yesterday, after 6 innings, they're 50-2, I believe it was, if I'm going back to my numbers from yesterday, right? I mean, they're not going to give up leads late. My hesitation before we move on here, guys, and I'll throw this back to you, Mac, and I think this might be part of T's hesitation when it comes to the Tigers is I don't know how much I trust the rest of this starting staff. And Flaherty was good yesterday, but I think that's where my reservation comes in. But again, at the same time, when you've got a bullpen that's that effective, all you got to do is get to 6. And sometimes you only got to get to like 5.5.
Right. And I mean, and that's what I said. They could use another starter, but you have to remember AJ Hinch is so good at using, he is one of the best, if not the best managers in baseball at using his bullpen. And we saw that in the playoffs last year, exactly what they did. And again, remember, when it comes to the playoffs, you don't need to be deep in starting pitching. One or two good starters can get you through if you can use your bullpen the right way. And Hinch is, like I said, he's a master at that. And so again, I can see the Tigers going for some more bullpen help, strengthening that bullpen. I mean, they're going to be a tough out no matter what this year.
Did Hinch bring the trash cans up from Houston is the big question.
It don't matter if he did or not. They're getting it done.
We have put a moratorium on trash can jokes. So TJ's got $1 for the D-bag jar there. TJ's going to be ducking out on us a little early today. So let's move to our first piece of history in the big leagues last night in the Bronx, a game that had some rain delays. And 4 home runs total last night, and you can probably guess who 2 of them were. Aaron Judge hit number 34 for the Yanks as they beat the Mariners 10-3. Cal Raleigh, here's our first piece of history from last night. History, easy for you to say. 36 home run passes Ken Griffey for the most by the All-Star game from a Mariner. He is 3 away from Barry Bonds' MLB record for most homers by the All-Star break, 39 in 2001. Seattle has 5 games left, and he's got a really good chance to pull this thing off, Mac, before we get to the break. And you can't continue to say enough about the season for the Big Dumper.
Yeah, no, it's so great. Judge goes deep, and then the very next inning, Cal goes deep. Just say, yeah, okay, hold my beer, Aaron. I got you. But here, let's talk about this Seattle team. This Seattle team is a joke to me. I can't believe them. Yeah, I know last week they had 3 straight shutouts, blah, 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 blah. It feels like anytime they have to play a team that's just a little bit competitive, their pants fall off. There's nothing to this team. I just don't. I don't like this Seattle team, the way they're constructed. I love what Cal's doing this year, but this is a joke to me. And against a Yankee team that's struggling themselves. And Michael Kay came out and said, I love Michael Kay. He says what he wants, as much as he's a Yankee homer. And he came out and he said, listen, he goes, all these Yankees fans calling for the Yankees to get rid of Boone and everything else because they went 3-7 for a week. You think the Yankees can handle a rebuild? You think Yankee fans can handle a rebuild? Bull! They can't. So listen, just kind of deal with it a little bit, Yankees fans. You're not all that bad, even though you haven't played all that well. You have some holes, you have some big holes. But listen, this Seattle team is an absolute joke to me.
I can see the gears turning into his head already.
I agree with you to an extent. I mean, this great pitching that we're expecting and that's been advertised just has not materialized outside of Brian Wu. I mean, Kirby's having a slow year. Gilbert's having a slow year. Castillo is meh. So, yeah, I mean, what are we getting excited about? We're getting excited about the big dumper dumping balls over the fence right now in Seattle. I think they're a smoke and mirrors team, Mac. I really do. I think they need. Well, they're going to be one of those teams that could always use some extra pitching at the deadline.
For those of you wondering here about the Raleigh watch, if you can catch Bonds by the All-Star break, Seattle goes to Detroit after they leave New York tomorrow. You've got Marcus Stroman on the bump tomorrow, Casey Mize on Friday, Tarek Skubal in Detroit on Saturday, and no starter announced yet for the Tigers in that Sunday game. Today, the Yanks are rolling out, as my computer wants to be slow, Cam Schlitter. Who? Yeah, Cam Schlitter is the starting pitcher for the Yankees tonight. Logan Evans goes for the Mariners. The Red Sox, in a game that was just, I wanted to stab my friggin' eyeballs out. It was the most boring pitchers duel in the world last night. And then all of a sudden, bang, there it goes. 0-0 through 5, 6 runs in the fourth, or 4 runs in the sixth, 6 runs in the seventh. For the Red Sox, Story and Durango yard. Your boy BB was on his game last night on the bump.
You know, and I'll agree. I mean, I know what you're saying. It was kind of boring, but for me, I absolutely loved it because this is what we've been waiting for with Brian Bello. I mean, he has gone 5 innings and 5 innings and 5 innings, and he couldn't seem to get over that hump. From the very start, I could tell he was going to have a special night. He was electric from batter number 1. He worked in his changeup a little bit more. I mean, this was the Brian Bello that the Red Sox expected a couple of years ago when they signed him to that big extension. And so I'm hoping that he's been so much better this year. I'm hoping that maybe this gets him over the hump because, you know, the Red Sox, the reason that they've been winning, they've been scoring some runs, but it's been their pitching that's leading them. And Giolito goes tonight. He's been as good as everybody. 4-0, 2.54 in his last 7. He has had a resurgence there. He loves being in Boston. Moss is coming back into the lineup tonight. So we'll see what he can do. So that'll be an interesting thing. This is Cora's team. I mean, I don't like it. I hate all the mixing and matching, but you know, Romy and you know, Abraham Toro, who plays absolutely he plays a first base. It's the ugliest first base I've ever seen. He's every pitch over there, he's falling over like he's a weeble. Like, stand on the freaking base and catch the ball. Like, every time he falls down, I'm like, I'm not quite sure why, but he's done a good job. But this team is starting to get Cora's, you know, fingerprints on it. He loves all this mixing and matching and playing guys in different positions. And Sadon and Story are just hot as hell right now.
While T is holding that up right now, I know what he's referring to. Boston's won 5 straight games.
I don't care that it's the Rockies.
46-14. And again, this is what you're supposed to do. They're beating up on Washington. Yes. They're beating up on Colorado. But
hey, 1,000 games for Ryan McMahon. Congratulations. You managed to hang with that disaster for 1,000 games. The Montforts just need to sell that team and get the hell out of there. The fans in Denver don't deserve this. That ballpark is top 3 in Major League Baseball. The fans are always great, but the fans are tired of it. And you're putting out this embarrassment of a squad. Get the hell out of here. Good win for the Red Sox, but man, I feel for the Rockies.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, because T is going to duck out early before we get to another red hot team that nobody would have expected we talked about yesterday. I would be remiss if I didn't make sure I got both of you on camera. And we'll talk about our liquid locks later. I have teas, so we'll make sure we pass that along. But, you know, you guys were busting my nuts about dropping the bag on 4th of July on Dollar Dingers with Andrew Benintendi. You know, so what do we do last night? We pull out Dollar Dingers. And I got a guy that not only hits 1, he hits freaking 2. And then I dropped 2 liquid locks last night that are freaking straight money. You 2 jokers, no home runs. I had 2 out of 1 guy, no home runs out of either one of you. Mac at least saved some face with his The Miz, who we'll talk about here in a second, going over his 14.5 outs. Merrill Kelly went over his 17.5 ounce. And then TJ's under 8.5 in Anaheim last night was taken care of as the over just by the Rangers. So
Lord.
I wasn't going to let you duck out early without busting both of your balls about that. So that's how you bounce back when you fumble the bag. You go 3-0.
There you go. There you go. No excuses. I have no excuses. Baseball's a team game, and I put the blame squarely on the shoulder of my teammates.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Exactly that. Speaking of teammates that are red hot, the Miami Marlins break up the fish. They pound the Reds 12-2 last night, 7-run third. They have an 11-game road winning streak where they're outscoring their opponents 87-47. That's the longest road winning streak since the 2023 Phillies hit the 13 in a row mark, man. And you know, we talked about it yesterday, Mac. With them being where they're at, yes, they've got a lot of ground to cover before they can be taken seriously. But this team is on fire right now. Just keep them out of Lone Depot Park.
Yeah, and it's all because of Mario Kart. Did you know that? Mario Kart is the reason that they're winning. Apparently on the trip to San Francisco, they decided to start playing Mario Kart, and it's kind of taken over the entire locker room, and now they do home games, away games, and this is what started the winning streak. It's all about Mario Kart. They started being very, very competitive, and all of a sudden they've taken off. So this is the Mario Kart Marlins.
You can try and follow that, TJ. I got nothing.
I love it. I love Xavier Edwards. I think he's a great leadoff guy. He's a perfect guy to start this lineup. He seems like he gets on base every day. I mean, what can you say? They're just rolling right now, and yes, a lot of teams in front of them, but keep this run going through the All-Star break and then pick it up next week and let's see what happens. But the 11 games in a row on the road is very, very impressive.
Yeah, tonight in Cincinnati.
And here's the thing about the Marlins.
Go ahead, Mac.
Mike, as you say, here's the thing about the Marlins. We know kind of the history of the Marlins. The history of the Marlins is they get all this young talent and then they disperse it. They trade it away. Mm-hmm. They don't seem to have the patience to kind of, you know, let it develop a little bit. I hope, and they have a good young pitching staff. They have some good young players. I hope they stay with this team a little bit, show some patience, and say, okay, yeah, this 25 might not be the year, but listen, you know, maybe 26 is the year, and hopefully they don't just, you know, again, start selling the pieces off.
Yeah, and one of those pieces, the most rumored piece to be potentially on the move tonight at the Great American Bandbox, where you can get in for as low as $9 on Vivid Seats. Alcantara and Andrew Abbott, who was named an All-Star yesterday. Abbott has been fantastic for the Reds, 7-1 with a 2.15 ERA. And he's got 78 strikeouts and 83 innings pitched. He has been amazing. Glad to see that he was named, even if it's out of default, as an All-Star yesterday. So if the Marlins are going to keep that streak going, then they're going to have to earn it tonight in that one. Last one before we get T out of here real quickly, the Cubs and the Twins. The Twins beat the Cubs 8-1 last night. Simeon Woods-Richardson, a 1.38 ERA over his last 5 starts. He was fantastic last night. Minnesota, 6 runs in the 8th inning, home runs from Jeffers, an absolute tank job from Ryan Jeffers. Willie Castro and Harrison Bader. Justin Turner comes in for a pinch hit homer in the 9th inning to get the Cubs their only run, his 200th career homer. I will start this time with you, TJ, because we know we got to get you out of here today. Interesting stuff last night, and I said the Twins were the team that needed to get going in the Central. They're the team that I thought could make the quickest kind of jump back into the mix, and that's a good way to get it started last night against the Cubs.
Oh yeah, I mean Richardson was great last night. I mean that's what the Twins need. They need great pitching to get over the hump here. Look, the Tigers are probably hell and gone from them right now, but they can still get into that wild card. They have do they have over under the number of teams that the Marlins have to jump. I think it's under, but still
1, 2, 3, a lot of teams.
Yeah, exactly. But they have a ways to go, but they can at least separate themselves from the rest of from the Guardians and the Royals if they can get on this run. I was really impressed. I watched that Twins game when they walked off the Rays last Friday, and really impressed with that lineup too. They really, Harrison Bader came through for him, and he's coming up with big hits right now. So yeah, good for the Twins. Hopefully they can turn this into a win for second place, I guess you would call it, in the Central.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Get up on out of here. That's a good mic drop for you.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, man. We'll talk to T tomorrow. Mac, that team, and again, the Cubs, I've made my case on the Cubs, and I think they're going to be fascinating to watch as we get going a little forward here and we get to that trade deadline that you talked to earlier, because we're in this giant game of chicken with the Mets, the Phillies, the Cubs, and the Dodgers right now. But this is an interesting series here because, again, and we talked about this Twins lineup at the beginning of the year, and we said if their big three could be in the lineup all together and healthy, they are dangerous, and you're seeing a little bit of that now, but how confident are we that they're going to stay healthy is the question.
Yeah, I mean, Byron Buxton's had a great year. We know that, all-star. I guess Minnesota, I'm starting to put these teams into like categories. And for me, Minnesota falls into that category of like with Seattle. I just don't have any belief in them. I mean, they had my favorite non-Red Sox player on that roster in Brooks Lee. Absolutely love Brooks Lee. But I see him as like there's just I don't feel it. I don't see that team being a playoff contending team. I'm kind of starting to put teams as I see them. I don't see them as a playoff team. I don't have confidence in them. There was a big story this morning in one of the Boston papers that the Red Sox and Minnesota were talking about a trade with Joe Ryan. And so, I mean, that again makes me wonder, where the Twins are with this. It doesn't feel to me like they're all in on this year.
No, and I think they're in an interesting spot because of how much your Detroit Tigers have kind of lapped everybody there. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Last night at American Family Field in Milwaukee, the Miz got a chance to pitch against Clayton Kershaw. I misspoke yesterday. I thought Glasnow was coming back yesterday. He's coming back tonight, or he's pitching right now for the Dodgers. He is on a pitch count. That game's 0-0 in the middle of the third. But Miz gives up a leadoff home run on the third pitch of the game to Shohei Ohtani. And what does he do? He strikes out the next 5 batters, 12 Ks in 6 innings pitched, only 4 hits, the 5th straight loss for the Dodgers. Piece of history for the Dodgers last night. Shohei Ohtani's 31st home run, most by a Dodger pre-All-Star game. This Dodger team's hitting a skid, and the Miz was again awesome last night for the Brew Crew.
Awesome. Man, oh man. I mean, if you haven't, I'll say it again. He's part of that really good young pitching that's in baseball right now. You've got to watch this kid pitch. He's only going to get better. It'll be interesting to see if there's any sort of limitations on how he handles pitching later in the season. That's always an issue with young pitchers. How do they handle the full major league season? But right now, I mean, I'd put him as one of the top 10 pitchers in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and it's great to see that too for a small market team like Milwaukee to have something, that the fans can gravitate to there. And we've talked about this Brewers team a lot. They're scrappy, they're tough, they can beat you in a lot of ways. They play sound defense. They had a little bit of a defensive hiccup earlier in the season, but they just play fundamental baseball. And again, this is we've talked about their manager Pat Murphy, and that's the kind of thing you get out of Pat Murphy teams. They're gritty, they're tough, they're hard to beat, they're like cockroaches. The thing with the Brewers is, can they get out of a first round playoff series? And when you've got an arm that's that good, if he can sustain this, that's the key.
Absolutely. And, we've talked about how well the Cubs have been going, and the Cubs have been playing really well. And then all of a sudden, the Cubs have to look, and they're only a game and a half up, on this Milwaukee team. They can't shake them. And so, I mean, this is going to be, I think, a really, really fun battle as we go through the rest of the summer. Brewers and Cubs. It's going to be a fun one to watch. And yeah, here's the thing: if the Miz can get through this season, and you get to a playoffs, that idea of Peralta and Miz, a 1-2 in a playoff, that's pretty tough. I mean, that's a tough two pitching matchup to have to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. Pittsburgh and Kansas City from the K last night. Jack Caglione, my boy, hit his first home run at Kauffman Stadium. Lofton with a homer in the 7th and the walk-off single in the 9th. And the Royals, again, a team in the Central that's struggling to score runs, but they get a big victory. And this Pirates team cooled just a little bit here. And they're in an interesting spot because you would think they would be out of their ever-loving mind to trade Paul Skeens, because when you look at the future, and we talked about the Reds earlier and their starting 5 rotation with Chase Burns, and you talk about the Pirates and their loaded rotation. Will the Pirates make a move at the deadline? Now, I think a lot of people, because it's fun to talk about the return you could get off of Paul Skeens, and it's fun to think about Paul Skeens pitching in the playoffs for the Cubs or pitching in the playoffs for the Mets or whatever. I think the Pirates are going to trade a pitcher, and I don't think it's Paul Skeens. And that's the thing here. And when we look at this, and I'm going to throw a scenario out because I wanted to really get your take on this. Paul Skeens is 4-7, 19 starts with a 1.94 ERA. There's probably a decent likelihood he gets about 15 more starts, give or take. There's a chance we could see a 15-game loser with a sub-2 ERA, which would be absolutely mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, that's, there was the whole Brian Kenny, he hates the win, get rid of the win. That's his big thing. It's almost like a team stat, if you will. I mean, here you get a guy who's pitching absolutely brilliantly, and the team just can't score any runs for him. That would be, I mean, that's kind of weird, but it's the same thing. I mean, Mitch Keller's 3-10. I mean, his ERA is around 3. I mean, he hasn't pitched bad. Andrew Haney hasn't pitched bad. I mean, you talked about it just a second ago. The NL Central in the next couple of years can have, 3 of the best pitching staffs in baseball with the Brewers, the Reds, and the Pirates. But which one of these teams is going to be able to do and fill in around it? You talked about a couple of, we talked, T talked about the Rockies. I always think Fenway for me is the best stadium, and that's just a bias. But my second favorite stadium is PNC Park in Pittsburgh. I mean, you want to talk about an enjoyable place to go watch a game, and the area around it. I mean, that is a great place. We know that when a Pittsburgh team is good, people go and fill that place. It's a great place for playoff baseball. We just haven't seen it in so long. But it's got to be discouraging to have, I think, a really good pitching staff, but just nothing behind it offensively.
No, not at all. And that's something to definitely monitor. And we're going to get, again, with the All-Star game being on Tuesday, with our first show next week, we're going to get a lot more into the trade deadline and obviously the All-Star game and stuff like that. Toronto, get hot, stay hot. They win last night 6-1 in 7. TJ's favorite algebra teacher, Davis Schneider, with his 4th home run of the season last night. Toronto is an MLB best 28-10 since May 28th. They have a new franchise record, 54 wins by the All-Star break. That surpasses the 53 set by the 85 and 92 Jays. 9 straight losses for the Sox against Toronto. Great matchup going on literally as we speak right now with Lauer and Hauser in that one. Top of the 3rd, the Jays are up 1-0 here. This Toronto team, man, I'm telling you, they're ripping off some major, like 2015 vibes. I'm not going to go as far as going to the Joe Carter team vibes, but this is pretty interesting here, and I think the American League is shaping up to be very much more compelling than I think some people thought it was going to be through the first, month and a half of the season here. We've got some interesting storylines in the AL.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of gone back and forth in the American League East. I mean, kind of looked like a boat race at the beginning. Looks like the Yankees were going to take that. All of a sudden now Toronto and even Boston is making some waves. You know, you have Houston, that's in the West. But listen, this is the Toronto team that I I kind of envisioned a couple years ago, and it's finally coming together. And as a Red Sox fan, this team scares me a lot. And like you said, they're doing it sometimes with players, like we said with Schneider and whatnot, that just don't seem to fit the part. But they're just it's here's the one thing I noticed about, and I said it yesterday a little bit. When you watch games, I like to watch the dugouts and kind of see what things. This Toronto team this year, for whatever reason, they look like they're having fun. They look like they're just enjoying every moment of every game, and you don't always see that. It's a grind, it's a marathon. But every time I watch this Toronto team, man, oh man, they just seem like they're having a good time. They seem really, really loose for whatever reason. They seem like they loose. Maybe they've grown up, Mike. Maybe this team has grown up finally, and they realize, what they are.
Yeah, and you speak about the fun, funny moment from, I believe it was yesterday. Vladdy jumps into to the media scrum around the manager yesterday and drops a question in there. I mean, they're loose, they're playing relaxed. They have a 3.5 game lead over the Yankees in the East. And I think that's going to be a fun race to finish watching here down the stretch. St. Louis, in a game that was delayed for a while, they get a victory over Washington, who just continues to just be putrid right now. 4-2, Donovan and Lars Nootbaar with a home run last night for the Cards. And, the Cards they're treading water. They got hot for a little bit, 5-5 in their last 10. They're only a game and a half behind the Giants for that third wild card spot. A half game behind San Diego to be right on that cut line there. We criticized the Cardinals for good reason in the offseason for not making moves. Yeah. I have this sense that that's going to follow through this regular season here, and they're going to ride with what they got. And I just don't think this team has enough to get into the playoffs. And I know that sounds crazy being as close as they are right now to a playoff spot, but there's a lot of baseball left, and I don't know how sustainable it is. They are getting good pitching, which is keeping them around. I just don't know if I'm a believer in this Cardinals team.
No, I agree with you on that. I don't know that they are going to make any changes. I think they've kind of hit the jackpot already. I don't think they thought they would be in this position. Excuse me, this part of the season. And so they're probably thinking, oh my gosh, this is better than we thought. So why make any changes? But it's too bad because I've said it. I really like the young players on this team. They've really stepped up. They've really played well. They're a fun team to watch. Burleson and Donovan. I mean, it is a good young core. Again, that Central Division can be really, really good. But I agree. I don't think they're going to do anything come the trade deadline. On the flip side, I don't think firing a manager and a general manager is going to make any difference for Washington. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. I mean, I think the big piece obviously is Mackenzie Gore. I don't think there's a team in the league that wouldn't want to have that guy in your rotation. I don't know if he's available, but obviously they're not going to get rid of Abrams and not going to get rid of Wood. But the Nationals are a certified mess right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Cleveland, they get their second win in a row after their 10-game losing streak last night. Knock off the Astros 10-6 in 10. Rough night for Hunter Brown. Rough night for Josh Hader. Brown gives up 6 hits, 6 earned in 6 innings. He gets the dreaded 666 mark there on the pitching line. Josh Hader took the loss, an inning and 2/3, 2 hits, 3 earned runs. Martinez with the go-ahead grand slam in the 10th, and Houston loses their first set of back-to-back games since beginning of June, their first series loss, as you alluded to yesterday, since the middle of May there. And rough night, a very rare as of late rough night for the Astros pitchers.
Yeah, I mean it's going to happen. Like we said, in a season, you're going to have those ups and downs, and it's kind of funny they hit a Cleveland team that wasn't scoring any runs at all, and all of a sudden, they're putting up, had a couple of good games and putting up some big numbers, and against Hunter Brown. I mean, just one of those nights it didn't click again, for the Astros. Yeah, Hader, the grand slam. That's rough in extra innings. Again, Cleveland's one of those teams I kind of don't trust. I think I don't know what they're going to do at the deadline. I mean,
You gotta
Carlos
sell if
Santana's
you gotta sell if you're Cleveland.
yeah. I mean, Carlos Santana's a name that's going to come up. I mean, he's a good veteran first baseman, but again, Cleveland this is a lost season for Cleveland. It just hasn't worked.
Yeah, Cleveland sits 5.5 games out of the third wild card spot, currently held by the aforementioned Seattle Mariners, who are being chased by the Red Sox, and the dangerous team in the mix, the Texas Rangers, who pound the Angels last night 13-1. Seager with another homer, Wyatt Langford, go Gators, with another homer, Jake Berger with a homer, Nate Eovaldi pitched great again, and T talked about the ups and downs of Soriano yesterday. And with the matchup of Eovaldi and Soriano, that's why he played the under, which obviously didn't work in his favor yesterday, which is a rare loss for T. And that's what he gets for going unders, like I told him yesterday. 4 innings, 3 hits, 5 earned, and 5 walks for Soriano. So, that's an interesting race to me, is that American League wild card race, because when you look at it, we've talked about the teams in the Central, and I'll include Cleveland in this at the 5.5 mark. Baltimore is 7.5 back, and they're not going in the right direction either. But you've got Cleveland 5.5, Minnesota 4, the Angels 4. The Angels were like right on the heels of a spot there a couple weeks ago. You've got Kansas City at 4 back. You've got Texas at 3.5 back. But all those teams I just mentioned are all sub 500 teams. Now, we know what the ticking time bomb is with the Rangers. We've been waiting for it all year. That was kind of the offense that we expected. You're not going to have 13 runs every night, but the ability to blow up in a hurry like the Rangers did last night is kind of what we've been waiting for all year. Now, is it sustainable? We'll find out.
Yeah, and the funny thing is they've actually gotten decent pitching. DeGrom has pitched well. Rocker's pitched okay. Has the switch been flipped in Texas? That's the question we're going to have to ask. Because if it has, can they still win the West? Yeah, possibly. I'm going to say I don't think so. But, I mean, I would still trust in a whole heck of a lot easier way the Texas Rangers to make the wild card than I do the Seattle Mariners right now. Because I still like this Texas team. So, I mean, yeah, there's still 3.5 out behind Seattle, but I trust more of the Rangers than I do this Seattle team.
Yeah, absolutely. Rocker and Hendricks tonight from the big halo down there. A couple more games to get to here. Feel free to comment along if you're watching the show. Like our guy RJ's on fire today. Guardians have scored more in the last 2 games than they did in the previous 10. Yeah, I mean, that's how bad it got for Cleveland there. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat, because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. San Diego and Arizona, as I reconfirmed to myself yesterday, playing at Petco Park. Nick Pivetta with another gem for the Padres. 23 strikeouts, 3 walks over his last 3 starts in 18.2 innings pitched. 1 earned run in that stretch. And last night, we didn't get the homer that TJ was looking for out of Tatis, but we got a home run robbery from Tatis and another one from Jackson Merrill again.
Yeah.
Merrill robbed Corbin Carroll of a 2-run homer, and Tatis got Naylor in the next inning on a solo shot. Merrill Kelly pitched well for the D-backs last night. A solo home run from Luis Arraez, the difference in that game. And they're going to go back at it tonight. Brandon Pfaadt and Dylan Cease. Again, D-backs and Padres, 2 teams that are also head scratchers. And we're waiting to see what the D-backs do at the trade deadline. And we've both kind of been split on what we think they should do. But these are 2 teams I think you definitely have to keep an eye on, especially in the wide open National League wild card race. I don't think anybody, despite the scuffles for the Dodgers, is going to catch them. But that wild card race in the National League is going to be impressive.
Yeah, I mean, these two teams are so frustrating to be a fan of. I mean, one week they look really good, the next week they look like total dog do. There's just no consistency in this team. I mean, and we followed the D-backs quite a bit here. We used to always go to the D-backs games and stuff, and so we do like the D-backs, but they're just a frustrating team. They just can never. Neither one of these teams can seem to get any sort of traction, and so it's again. I just don't know. I know this is going to come as a surprise to you. I've been saying it all along. I trust the Giants more than I trust either of these two teams, and I know you think the Giants are doing it with smoke and mirrors and all kinds of other stuff, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But I trust the Giants more than I trust the Padres or D-backs in this race.
Yeah, there's definitely a conversation to have there. Speaking of those aforementioned Giants, as we get to our final two games from last night, and two pieces of history from the final two games last night. The Giants beat the Phillies 4-3. Jordan Romano takes another loss, 1-4 now. That Phillies bullpen continues to be a disaster. The Giants have won 6 of their last 8. Their 9th walk-off win, which is the most in Major League Baseball. They have a 1-game lead on that third wild card spot that we were just talking about. But I got a flashback to Angel Pagan last night from Patrick Bailey. And sometimes triples alley and the brick wall and Levi's landing giveth, sometimes it taketh away. Patrick Bailey, the most unlikely guy in any form of your imagination, a walk-off 3-run homer as the Giants take the victory, and they're looking for a sweep today against the Phillies, which will get going just a little bit after we get off the air here. What an incredible scene last night that was with those hideous City Connect uniforms that the Giants are wearing.
I mean, that was so much fun to watch at the end. I mean, it's 100 years in the making, Mike. It's been 100 years since, a catcher's hit a walk-off inside the park home run. I wrote it down somewhere. You got to go back to 1926 from the Senators, good old Benny Tate. We all know Benny, right? Benny, he had one. And then 1907, Pat Moran for the Cubs. Another inside the. Yeah, Pat. Pat and Benny. They were. I mean, but how much fun is that going to be? I mean, if you think about it, if there was a scenario for you to win a game, I mean, you don't ever think about that. You think of, we think of, like Luis Gonzalez, the single to win the World Series for the D-backs. Like, that's the penultimate, right? I mean, that's, you win a World Series, a Game 7, a base hit against, maybe one of the greatest closers ever. I mean, we've played that in our backyard 100 times, right? But how many times have we played the walk-off inside the park home run? I mean, you don't do that. I mean, that's so much fun. I mean, that was, and it wasn't even close. It wasn't like a close play at the plate where he had to slide. I mean, that dude had rounded home and he was heading back to the dugout before that ball was even in the infield. What an awesome moment that's one where you wish you could have been there for that. It was that kind of a moment.
Yeah, it's funny because, everybody talks about like Willy Adames' struggles for the Giants to start this season, and he's had several, and he did a couple last night, that at nighttime you can't hit home runs in that ballpark. You really, really got to mash one like Kyle Schwarber did when he put one out in the drink out in right field. But, the advantage that the Giants have with an effective bullpen, and the starting pitching is a whole different story for a different day, but that is the thing. You see these teams come in that don't play there frequently, and guys in center field and right field that don't understand how to play that wall. And obviously I've seen it several times for the Giants and against the Giants, more so like for the Giants, just because when you don't play there often, you see every team that comes in and their outfielders, especially their right fielders and their center fielders, they spend about the first hour when they're out there at that wall, because those columns and those bricks and the angles and everything, I mean, you got to hit it dead perfect, and Bailey did just that. So an incredible scene last night for the Giants with a walk-off inside the park home run. Today, winless Justin Verlander and Luzardo going for the Phillies as the Phils look to avoid the sweep. The other part of history was at the beginning of this last game last night. Another one from my Liquid Locks, which was really interesting because we got to 9 runs real quick and barely got over the 10.5, but we did 10-1. The West Sacramento, Henderson County Nomads, as our guy RJ nicknamed them yesterday, and that's going to be their name for this week. They beat the Braves 10-1. The swinging A's, Muncy, Rooker, Kurtz, and my guy, the Law Dog, Lawrence Butler, started the game in the first inning when the A's came up with a leadoff inside the park home run. Another ball that hit the exact right spot of the wall, caromed all the way around. The difference between Bailey and Butler is a massive speed difference. So Lawrence Butler had no problem getting around. And then Butler later in the game channeled his inner Red Sox. Who was that last? I asked you this earlier this morning because I forgot. It was Wilyer, right?
Abreu.
Yeah, Wilyer Abreu. So Butler goes and hits one over the fence in the traditional form. And interesting note here, and I haven't seen anything on it today. I meant to look it up and I didn't. Right after Butler, and I had my head down because I was adding some notes for today's show, and I heard this. I didn't see it when it happened, but Jacob Wilson with I believe they called it a left hand contusion. Obviously, they're going to check the swelling and all that. But the sound that this made when he got plunked by Fuentes, and again, no intent here, but it was a horrific sound. So hopefully nothing long term for Wilson, but a big win for the A's last night in a big way.
Yeah, they're just calling it a bruise. They're saying nothing serious on it.
Good.
We have all made jokes about the A's athletics. Sorry, whatever we're supposed to call them, the Nomads, all year. But listen, the fact of the matter is they really have some fun young players. Kurtz and Rooker. They have Wilson. They have Mason Miller, who is one of the best closers in baseball. It's bothersome. And again, TJ talked about it. I think he really has these feelings for the Rockies that I didn't know that he had. But I kind of feel it a little bit.
You can't take shots at the guy when he's not here anymore.
Yes, I can absolutely. I feel bad for some of these A's players because the situation just has to suck. It just really does. I mean, Brett Rooker is going to play, the first part of his career in a minor league park. I mean, these guys just deserve better. They're really good players. Same with Wilson. I mean, that's not how you want to start your career, right? It's just not. I feel bad.
Yeah, and RJ's on fire again today. We appreciated RJ, but that's for the people that don't know about Jacob Wilson. I mean, one of the best exciting young players in baseball. He's an all-star. I mean, so again, that sound last night, I was like, come on. You never want to see anybody get hurt, obviously, ever. But I was kind of had that cringe for the worst. Hopefully, again, it's just a bruise, and that's all it amounts to be because he's having a sensational rookie season. Games in action right now before we have a lane change here, and then we'll talk a little golf. Toronto's still up on Chicago 1-0. Dodgers and Brewers. I'm not going to make any friends in Milwaukee with my next comment here, but the game is 0-0 in the top of the fifth. And we've got an alert.
There's nothing going on, baby.
We've got an alert.
There's nothing going on.
I will tell you this. There are 2 total hits in this game between the starting pitchers, Jose Quintana and Tyler Glass. Now it's time for a lane change. Mac, before we talk some golf, I am hesitant to ask you this. What do you have in store for me today?
Mike, it's summertime, so I have a summer quiz for you, but with a little bit of a twist. I actually have 5 different quizzes written out for you. And so I'm going to give you the topic, and I'm going to have you pick a number, and whichever number you pick, that's the quiz you're going to get. But one quiz is just titled Summer Trivia, just summer trivia. One is Summer Song Trivia,
Definitely
Summer Drink Trivia, Summer Drink Trivia, Summer Movie Trivia, or Summer Travel Trivia. So again, I'm going to have you pick a number 1 through 5. I have them all arranged, and we'll see where we go with this.
Look at that. Somebody actually likes you out there. Shout out Herb and Raj. We appreciate you guys. I'm definitely not doing song trivia, so you can throw that one away. So the guy who's good
pick a
for
number
music trivia is not here.
Pick a number 1 through 5, and yeah, and then I have them numbered, and that's the one you get.
1 through 5. Let's see. I just want to confirm this. All right, I'm going to go with 5 because it was my number, and we just talked about Jacob Wilson, so I will go with number 5.
All right, so we're going to go summer travel trivia. Are you ready?
I'm down with that.
Here we go. Summer travel trivia. All right. What is, or tell me where you would be if you were at the busiest airport in the United States? What is the busiest airport in the United States?
Oh, my fiance would argue with me on this one, but it is the worst airport I've ever been to, Hartsfield in Atlanta.
Absolutely. Good. 1 for 1. All right. Here we go. What stretch of the road is known as America's Mother Road? Think Disney.
Oh, Route 66. Disney.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Here we go. Travel trivia, 2 for 2. What sweet treat can you not buy at Walt Disney World?
God, I haven't been to Disney World in like 3 decades. Oh no, Disney World. Are we talking about like by Disney World or Disneyland?
Either one. It's the same rule for both. Sorry.
Sour Patch Kids.
What sweet treat can you not buy?
Sour Patch Kids.
No. Correct answer is no. It's gum. They don't want gum in that park, so they do not sell gum.
Surprisingly, you knew that.
Here we go. Last one. Yeah. Here we go. What is the main attraction at the Iowa State Fair? If you get this one.
No, there was a couple of jokes that I'm just going to keep I'm going to keep my mouth shut there. It's not a Heisman Trophy winner from Iowa. A statue of George Kittle.
No, close. It is a 600-pound cow sculpted from butter.
Fantastic. I can feel my arteries clogging as they speak. Iowa's probably signed him to a NIL deal to play offensive line for him. Okay, I can actually say this now before we talk a little bit of golf. The no-hitter is gone in Milwaukee. Was just broken up by not Bryce Durang. He plays for Milwaukee. Broken up by Esteri Ruiz of the Dodgers. Top of the 5th, 2 outs, runners on 2nd and 3rd for the Dodgers, and James Outman at the plate. So Quintana and Glasnow are pitching great in that one. One more update before we get to the golf here. White Sox and Jays, bottom 4, tied at 1 now. Carroll with a double, and Austin Slater scored. Yeah. See, a lot of people think O'Hare. My fiance fights me on Seattle's airport, which is an absolute shit show as well. But yeah, no, it is Hartsfield in Atlanta, which is a disaster. Corn Maze in Iowa was a good guess. I had a couple more inappropriate.
Oh yeah.
Things. All right. So the PGA Tour, a couple of weeks as we've talked about over in Scotland. Today about 5 o'clock, we'll have our Mike versus Mac picks as Mac continues his dominance in Mike versus Mac. But the Genesis Scottish Open, a $9 million purse at the Renaissance Club in North Berwick, 7,200 yards of par 70, our defending champ Robert McIntyre won by 1 shot last year dramatically over Adam Scott. Got his home win there. And the interesting thing about this tournament, Mac, and we were kind of talking about it yesterday after the show, but we remember, and as much as I don't like giving this guy credit for anything because I can't stand him, I've never been able to, Phil Mickelson. And I'm not saying he was the first one, but he was kind of the first kind of wave of guys that would go over there early and play in this tournament before it's kind of blown up into what it is now, where we see, I mean, this field is absolutely loaded the week before the Open Championship at Royal Portrush, but a very interesting course. Over the last couple of years, it's been, quote, unusually calm when it comes to the winds, because we know links golf, the winds, the elements is what makes it even more challenging. I'm really excited for this one with such a loaded field.
Yeah, I mean, we know Phil, he would go over that. That was always like his big thing. I think if there was a one, well, he wants always to win the U.S. Open, but he always wanted to win the Open Championship because there's a different type of golf. It's a different type of golf that's played there. The grasses are different. The fairways are usually firm. You get a lot of run out. You have to be special around the greens. But Phil played a lot of stuff up in the air, and that wasn't his game. The links course, you have to play a little bit more on the ground than you do up in the air. But yeah, this has completely changed. It's now a big thing with the DP Tour as well. You're getting their top players, you're getting the PGA top players, and what that basically is in essence, it's almost what. And I hate to say this, it's almost what the PGA and Live was trying to do. Get the best players in each part of in each of those tours and kind of put them together in a tournament and have it be it almost feels almost like a mini major. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. Those of you new to the show, every Wednesday we're going to always preview the golf tournament coming up for us. Wednesday is golf day. Mike versus Mac again on our social channels a little bit later. Just a heads up and a sneak peek as we continue here on the Genesis Scottish Open. Tomorrow's show, little hockey. We're going to see what Major League Baseball has in store for us on the diamond today and tonight. Obviously, some good stuff already. And we're going to make some massive dingers picks. Hopefully, the field will be set by tomorrow for the Home Run Derby in Hotlanta on Monday. But, I was doing some reading, just a couple of fun facts that I found. In 1744, the Honorable Company of Edinburgh established the 13 rules of golf, and they established their home base at Muirfield, which borders the Renaissance Club. The club was built on a site covered in pine trees. I love this. I couldn't wait to say this today. 8,500 tons of wood they had to remove off of this course because, as we know, Mac, as we speak of, your heritage here in Scotland, links courses, we don't see a whole lot of trees. Now, there are a few of these trees that they did leave out here, but ball striking is immensely important this week, especially if the winds come into play. And again, the only time we saw the winds really kind of impact this as this tournament has continued to blow up and get bigger was in 2020. But we got to remember that was the COVID year, and that tournament wasn't being played here in July. It was played, I believe it was back in September or early October. So we're talking about a whole different gamut here on the elements, but the elements is what makes these next 2 weeks of golf absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, if you're a golfer and you've played any type of links courses are not difficult. They're really not. I mean, they usually have a couple of things. Number one, there's usually really, really big fairways. The fairways are usually, pretty firm. There's usually strategic pot bunkers that are out there that kind of control your drives a little bit. You usually have a lot of undulations around the greens and a lot of kind of those kind of things. But the big defense is the fact that this is right up against the North Sea coastline. Uh-huh. And if there's no weather, guys are able to bomb away on these courses. And I looked at the forecast. Thursday is the only day they're supposed to have any sort of wind. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are supposed to be just jolly good days over there. And so that's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens if there's a links course is defenseless without wind is basically what I'm coming down to. Without wind and weather, a links course is defenseless. There was a course and it's no longer there. It's kind of a bummer. It was in Vegas, and I can't remember the name of it, and I talked to you about it a couple of times. It had 18 holes, and they were all holes from courses that are in the rotunda of the
Oh
British
yeah,
Open.
Royal Links was the name
And
of that
it
place.
just closed a couple years. It just Yeah, it just closed a couple of years ago. They're putting up houses there, and I got to play it a couple of times, and it was really kind of fun. They had the big tall grass and the fescue that was there. They did have some trees. I mean, that just you couldn't get away from that. But it's a different mindset, and that's why these top players are going over there because it is different than playing golf here in the United States. It's a completely different mindset on how they have to hit approach shots, and that's the bigger thing. Approach shots are going to be big because you're going to have big drives. A 419-yard par four might be drivable because the fairways are so firm and hard. You get a good bounce, and you can get it on the green. You just got to be able to work around the green. So big strong drivers of the ball do have some advantage if the wind's not blowing.
Firm, hard ball striking and wood. We've all worked in the last 5 minutes here. Now remember this,
Got
and
it.
no, to answer the question that's already been asked, no, as my phone continues to blow up, am I doing the marathon for this tournament where I stay up all hours of the night to watch wall-to-wall coverage? No, because I can't do it 2 weeks in a row. I'm too old for that. So because they are over in Scotland, remember these tee times will be going technically tonight and starting tonight, here on the West Coast, going into the early hours of the morning. So if you're trying to watch that coverage, make sure you get over to the PGA Tour website there. And you talked about that coastline before. We talk about a couple of guys and then get into our liquid locks here. That 12, 13, and 14, the last piece of interesting information I found out. After you turn 14 at the Renaissance Club, you play back towards an ancient volcano named Arthur's Seat. Also something that it feels like every time I go to Taco Bell, there's an ancient volcano and I need Arthur's Seat. All right, give me a couple of guys that you have your eye on. I've got 3 going into this tournament, and don't spoil your Mike versus Mac picks, but 3 guys that you're kind of keeping your eye on in this one that could be players in this thing.
The first one is Harry Hall. This is a guy that he's had 6. I'm wrong guy. I'm sorry, Harry Hall. He is a short game specialist, and his numbers as far as short game and putting are very, very good. And so he was born on the southern, I think, southeastern coast of England. So he's played these types of courses growing up. So I really like Harry Hall. And then I took a couple of big hitters, Jordan Carter and then Aldrich Potgieter, who we just learned about, from a couple weeks ago with his win. These are both bombers. And again, if that wind isn't blowing, guys who hit the ball a long way have an advantage on this course.
Yeah, 3 guys I've got my eye on. Again, these are not my picks to win, but I decided to take a boost token on this and play them together. Like we always say on this show, play them straight, play them together. We're not handicappers. We're not selling you picks. We're telling you what we're picking and why, and you can agree with us or you can't. Some days we knock out liquid locks out of the park. Some days we don't. Xander Schauffele, Tommy Fleetwood, Sepp Straka, 3 guys that I've got my eye on in this format here, because Xander just seems to always, and it was funny because he's talking about how bad of a season that he's had for his standards, but yet this guy seems to always be here in the biggest events with the loaded field. So I like him in his odds at plus money to be a top 10. Tommy Fleetwood, again, we know the story with Tommy Fleetwood. He's seemingly always right there, can't get the job done. I think he's going to be there in the top 10. And Sepp Straka is a guy who's played really, really well this year, especially in the bigger events. He's a guy that can handle this course, so I stretched him out to a top 20. I got that at plus 39.81 there. So that's what I'm looking at. Again, we will keep you apprised of everything. Another show tomorrow in the same bat time, same bat channels here. Let's get to liquid locks. If you missed it earlier, my 2 co-hosts, my teammates here that I'm throwing under the bus last night, TJ had the under in the Angels-Rangers game, which got blown out of the freaking water. So that was a loss. I had the Twins on the money line and the Nomads and Braves game over 10.5. Those were both hitters. Mac had The Miz over 14.5 outs, which he did. Merrill Kelly under 17.5 outs, which he didn't. He pitched, again, really well last night. So we had a 3-2 night last night. I will get us started with TJ's pick first here, Mac. He's going with he's going back to where his bread is buttered, Arizona and San Diego, and with Brandon Pfaadt, who has really struggled, especially at the beginning of games. He's going to play that game over 8.5. So that's TJ's pick for today. My picks for today, I'm going to go with another two-legger, again, because 2 legs is solid, better than a third leg. I'm going to go with Juan Soto over 1.5 total bases. I think he continues his run against Tomoyuki Sawano today for the Orioles. And I'm going to take the Rays on the money line to stop the Tiger train. I like the spot for the Rays. I think they can get back to good baseball here sooner rather than later. And if there is a game in this series, when you looked at it at the beginning, that looks to be in their favor, it's this one. So Rays and Soto over 1.5 total bases. Mr. Liquid Locks, what do you got for me today, Crazy?
Well, you know, since I started going with it, I love these picture props. So I'm going Sandy Alcantara. I'm going under 17.5 outs.
Is that your only
And then
one?
You know, I just like no. And then I just like to keep the dollar dingers. I know we're not doing dollar dingers today, but I like to just kind of, it's like batting practice. You know, every day you got to have batting practice. So I'm trying to stay in a groove. So I'm going with my guy, Riley Green tonight. Riley Green hitting a home run.
All right. So Riley Green to homer. Alcantara under 17.5 outs for Mac. TJ's got the over in the San Diego, Arizona game. I've got Soto for 2 total bases and the Rays on the money line right there. RJ.
It looks good.
Yes, we will have a little bit on the MLB draft. RJ, Mac talked about it last week on his setup for the All-Star game, and I know Mac's going to have a couple of things on the draft over our social channels for the rest of this week. Tomorrow, again, we'll make our picks for the Home Run Derby. We're going to talk a little puck, put a bow on the hockey season with the new CBA that was ratified. Some interesting stuff in there, as well as whatever the diamond brings to us today. I need to get a cord so I don't sound like I'm in an underwater tunnel. So for everybody behind the scenes, for TJ, for Vegas Mac and Mike, we'll talk to you tomorrow.